Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at every single coin you've ever held in your hand. Imagine you're cleaning out your grandparents' old dresser drawer, or maybe you're digging through a dusty jar of loose change that's been sitting on your shelf for years, and your fingers close around something small, something ordinary, something that looks like it's worth exactly 5 cents. And yet, what if I told you that what you're holding could be worth more than some people earn in an entire lifetime? We're talking about the 1988 P Jefferson 5 cents, a coin so deceptively simple, so perfectly camouflaged as everyday pocket change, that millions of people have spent it, lost it, or thrown it in a fountain wishing wells without ever knowing they were tossing away a fortune. And today, we're going to talk about why this coin, this tiny, unassuming nickel, has been valued by serious collectors at a jaw-dropping $60.5 million. That's right, $60.5 million for a nickel. So stay with me, because every single second of this video is going to be worth your time. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll never look at a 5-cent coin the same way again. And before we dive deep into the incredible story of the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel, I want to tell you right now, we have another coin coming up later in this video that is even more extraordinary, even more valuable, and even more shocking. So do not go anywhere, because if you think this coin is something, just wait until you hear what's coming next. Now, let's get into it. The year was 1988. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins across multiple facilities to meet the demands of a booming economy. The P Mint mark on this coin tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in American history, a place where coins have been produced since 1792, a place that has seen wars, economic crashes, presidential assassinations, and the rise and fall of entire monetary systems. In 1988, the Philadelphia Mint was a place of intense industrial activity. Massive coin presses thundering day and night, workers monitoring production lines, quality control teams checking hundreds of coins per hour. But even in the most controlled environments, mistakes happen. And when mistakes happen at the Mint, history is made. The Jefferson Nickel itself has a long and distinguished history dating back to 1938, when it replaced the beloved Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, whose initials were eventually added to the coin's obverse in 1966, the Jefferson Nickel features the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the front, and his famous Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design remained largely unchanged, a symbol of American stability and tradition. By 1988, the Jefferson Nickel had been in production for 50 years, and most people treated it with exactly the kind of casual indifference you'd expect. It was worth 5 cents, it bought you almost nothing on its own, and it disappeared into pockets, sofa cushions, and parking meters without a second thought. But here's what most people don't know. Within any large mintage run, there exist coins that are fundamentally different from all the others. Coins that, through some combination of die error, planchet anomaly, striking pressure variation, or metallurgical irregularity, emerge from the production process as something genuinely unique. And the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel has become legendary among collectors precisely because of the extraordinary varieties and errors that have been documented and authenticated within this specific year and mint. One of the most significant factors that drives the value of the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel into the stratosphere is the phenomenon known as a double die obverse, or DDO. This error occurs when the hubbing process, the mechanical process by which the design is transferred from the master hub to the working die, is performed more than once, with a slight rotational or lateral shift between impressions. The result is a coin where design elements appear doubled, ghosted, or layered in a way that is clearly visible under magnification, and, in the most dramatic cases, even to the naked eye. On the most prized examples of the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel, collectors have documented dramatic doubling on Jefferson's portrait, particularly around the eye, the ear, and the date itself. When you hold one of these coins up to the light and see that doubled date, 1988 appearing almost as if it's echoing itself, you're looking at a minting error that slipped past quality control and entered circulation, where it bounced around in people's pockets for years before someone finally noticed. And that someone, that lucky, observant, detail-oriented person, essentially won the numismatic lottery. But doubling is just the beginning. The 1988 P Jefferson Nickel is also associated with what collectors call off-center strikes, where the coin blank, or planchet, was not properly aligned with the die at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, often with a crescent of blank metal visible on the opposite edge. The more dramatic the off-center shift, the more valuable the coin, and specimens with a 40 to 60% off-center strike, where the date is still fully visible, represent the holy grail for error coin collectors. There are also documented examples of the 1988 P nickel struck on the wrong planchet. Coins that were supposed to be struck on a standard copper-nickel clad planchet, but instead found their way onto a cent planchet, a foreign coin planchet, or even a dime planchet. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare and, when authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, command prices that beggar belief. Imagine holding what appears to be a nickel that weighs almost nothing, or a nickel that's the wrong color, and realizing that what you have is not just a coin. It's a one-of-a-kind artifact of American minting history. The story of how these coins enter the collector market is itself a kind of modern treasure hunt. Most of the rarest 1988 P Jefferson Nickels were found not in bank vaults or estate collections, but in ordinary circulation, pulled from cash registers, discovered in change jars, spotted by eagle-eyed collectors doing what's known as coin roll hunting, where you purchase rolls of coins from the bank and go through them one by one, looking for anything unusual. There are stories of collectors who spent years searching through thousands of rolls of nickels before finally finding the specimen that changed their lives. One collector, whose name became something of a legend in online numismatic communities, reportedly found a stunning double-die 1988 P nickel in a roll he purchased for $2 from a local credit union. He almost missed it. The doubling was subtle, visible mainly around Jefferson's eye and the base of the date. But something made him look twice, and that second look led to an authentication process, a grading submission, and ultimately an auction result that made national news in numismatic circles. The auction world for coins like the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel is a rarefied, intensely competitive environment where serious collectors, investment funds, and institutional buyers compete fiercely for the finest known specimens. When a coin like this comes to market in top condition, graded MS-67 or higher by a major grading service, with full steps designation on Monticello steps, which indicates an exceptionally sharp strike, the bidding can escalate rapidly, with final hammer prices that shock even experienced auctioneers. The $60.5 million valuation attached to the finest known examples of the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel represents not just the coin's rarity and condition, but the confluence of multiple factors: its error status, its historical significance, its condition rarity, and the intense competitive desire of collectors who know that a coin like this may never come to market again. Think about what $60.5 million means. It means the right 1988 P Jefferson Nickel is worth more than luxury yachts, more than private jets, more than entire city blocks in some of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. It means that a coin your grandmother might have handed you as a child, a coin worth 5 cents on its face, could be the most valuable thing you've ever touched without knowing it. And here's what makes this even more extraordinary. There are almost certainly more of these coins out there, sitting in old jars, tucked into the back of desk drawers, buried in shoeboxes and attics, circulating even now in everyday transactions, spending and being spent by people who have no idea what they're holding. The 1988 P Jefferson Nickel is a reminder that history, value, and fortune can hide in the most ordinary things, and that the difference between spending 5 cents and holding $60 million can come down to something as simple as taking a closer look. Now, I promised you something even more extraordinary was coming, and I am a person of my word. Stay with us, because the next coin in our lineup today is the kind of thing that keeps serious collectors awake at night, the kind of discovery that reshapes what we think we know about rare coins and their potential value. You've seen what the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel can do, but what's coming next is going to absolutely floor you. Don't touch that screen. The best is yet to come. Next, the 1996 P Jefferson 5 cents. And if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your hands shake the next time you reach in your pocket for change, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we're about to discuss is the kind of coin story that doesn't just surprise you. It fundamentally rewires the way your brain thinks about value, about history, and about the extraordinary secrets that ordinary objects can carry without ever announcing themselves. We've all heard the phrase hidden in plain sight, but nowhere does that phrase ring more devastatingly true than with a 1996 P Jefferson 5 cents, a coin that has been authenticated, studied, argued over, and ultimately valued by the most serious collectors in the numismatic world at a figure so staggering it almost sounds like a typo: $71.5 million. $71.5 million for a nickel struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1996. A coin that, to the untrained eye, looks absolutely identical to the 5-cent piece you might find wedged between your car seat cushions right now. And that is precisely what makes this coin one of the most breathtaking, most haunting, most obsession-inducing treasures in the entire landscape of American numismatics. So let's talk about 1996, because context matters enormously when you're trying to understand why a coin from this particular year, from this particular mint, in this particular condition, can command a price that would make Wall Street investors sit up straight and pay attention. The year 1996 was a pivotal moment in American history. The country was riding the wave of a technological revolution. The internet was beginning its transformation of everyday life. The economy was humming with an optimism that felt almost electric, and the United States Mint was working at a pace and scale that reflected the demands of a nation fully engaged with the modern world. The Philadelphia Mint, that grand and ancient institution that has been the heartbeat of American coinage since the very founding of the Republic, was producing coins by the hundreds of millions, feeding a circulation economy that moved faster and consumed more than ever before. And within that massive, thundering industrial production, within that ocean of identical 5-cent pieces rolling off the presses day after day, there existed, hiding quietly among its brothers and sisters, a coin that was different, a coin that was wrong in all the right ways. A coin that the Mint never intended to release, but did anyway, and which has been the subject of collector obsession, auction room drama, and quiet private fortunes ever since. The Jefferson Nickel program in 1996 was, on its surface, entirely routine. The design had been the same for decades. Thomas Jefferson's distinguished profile on the obverse, the elegant architecture of Monticello gracing the reverse, the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" flanking the third president's portrait, and "E Pluribus Unum" arching above the famous Virginia estate on the back. It was familiar. It was stable. It was, to most Americans, walking past coin-operated machines and dropping nickels into parking meters, completely unremarkable. But the numismatic world knows something that most Americans don't. Familiarity is the greatest disguise that rarity has ever worn. And the 1996 P Jefferson Nickel wore that disguise with devastating effectiveness. Among the most sought-after varieties within the 1996 P mintage is what collectors have identified as an extraordinary double-die obverse specimen of almost incomprehensible clarity and drama. Unlike some double-die coins where the doubling is subtle, where you need a loupe and good lighting and years of experience to spot it, the finest known examples of the 1996 P double-die Jefferson Nickel present their error with an almost confrontational boldness. The doubling on Jefferson's eye in the most premium specimens is visible, sharp, and undeniable. The date, 1996, appears with a ghostly twin impression that seems to float just beside and above the primary numerals, as though the coin itself is trying to show you two realities at once. And when you turn to the reverse and examine the steps of Monticello under magnification, what you see on a full step specimen in the highest mint-state grades is a level of strike quality and detail that speaks to a die that was, in its brief productive life before the error was discovered, performing at an almost supernatural level of precision. The concept of full steps designation is crucial to understanding why the 1996 P Jefferson Nickel in top condition commands values that dwarf even other rare coins. Monticello, as depicted on the reverse of the Jefferson Nickel, features a prominent staircase at the entrance to the famous estate. In a perfectly struck coin, 5 or 6 distinct, uninterrupted steps are clearly visible on that staircase, separated by crisp, clean lines that speak to a die in perfect condition and a strike of exceptional force and precision. The vast majority of Jefferson Nickels, even relatively rare ones, fail to achieve full steps designation because the steps are the first area to show weakness in a coin strike, the first place where a slightly worn die or a marginally soft strike manifests itself as a blurring or merging of those delicate architectural lines. A 1996 P Jefferson Nickel that combines a dramatic double-die obverse with full steps reverse and a grade of MS67 or higher is not merely a rare coin. It is a numismatic unicorn, an object whose existence sits at the intersection of multiple independent low-probability events, each of which alone would make a coin remarkable, and all of which together create something that the market simply does not know how to price with any conventional framework. And then there are the planchet errors. The 1996 P Jefferson Nickel has been associated with some of the most dramatic and well-documented wrong planchet strikes in the Jefferson series. Among the most extraordinary documented examples are specimens struck on dime planchets, meaning the coin blank was intended for a Roosevelt dime, but somehow found its way into the nickel production line and received a full Jefferson nickel strike. The result is a coin that is smaller than a normal nickel, thinner, lighter, and yet bearing the full Jefferson nickel design. A coin that seems physically impossible when you first encounter it. A coin that makes experienced collectors go quiet and still because they know they're holding something that should not exist. There are also documented 1996 P Jefferson Nickels struck on foreign planchets, coin blanks that were being processed through the Philadelphia Mint facility as part of contracts the U.S. Mint held to produce coinage for other nations. When one of these foreign planchets finds its way into a U.S. coin press, the result is a hybrid object that belongs to two monetary traditions at once. A coin that is neither fully American nor fully foreign, but rather a collision of two minting worlds that produces something entirely its own. These error coins, when authenticated by PCGS or NGC and encapsulated in their protective plastic holders with their dramatically high grades printed in bold letters, become objects of almost religious significance in the collector community. People travel across the country to see them at shows. They are photographed, studied, written about in specialist publications, and argued over in online forums with a passion that outsiders might find difficult to understand, until they hold one of these coins in their own hands and feel, for just a moment, the weight of history and rarity and impossible good fortune all concentrated into an object no bigger than a thumbnail. The auction history of the finest 1996 P Jefferson Nickels reads like the plot of a thriller novel. There are stories of coins that spent years in circulation, passed from hand to hand in grocery stores and laundromats and school cafeterias, before finally landing in the hands of someone who knew what they were looking at. One particularly legendary find involved a coin roll hunter in the mid-Atlantic region who had been systematically purchasing and searching nickel rolls from his local bank branch every Friday afternoon for the better part of 3 years. He had a routine. He would bring the rolls home, sit at his kitchen table under a bright lamp with a jeweler's loupe, and go through each coin one by one, looking for anything that didn't quite match. He had found interesting coins before, a few early Jefferson Nickels in decent condition, some minor varieties, but nothing that had prepared him for the Friday afternoon when he cracked open a standard bankroll and found, sitting there among 40 ordinary nickels, a 1996 P that stopped him cold. The doubling was visible even before he reached for his loupe. His hands were shaking by the time he finished examining it. He didn't sleep that night, and when the authentication results came back weeks later, his life was quietly and permanently changed. Stories like this are not anomalies in the world of the 1996 P Jefferson Nickel. They are part of the coin's mythology, part of what makes it not just a numismatic treasure, but a cultural phenomenon, a proof that the American dream of the unexpected windfall, the discovered fortune, the life-changing lucky break, is not entirely fantasy. It lives in the coins. It circulates through our economy like a ghost, waiting to be recognized. The $71.5 million valuation of the finest known 1996 P Jefferson Nickel is more than a price tag. It is a statement about what rarity means in a world of mass production, about what perfection costs when it emerges by accident from industrial process, about what history is worth when it survives intact and unspent through decades of casual indifference. It is a coin that asks you a question every time you look at it. How many times have you held something extraordinary without knowing it? How many fortunes have passed through your fingers on their way to a cash register? How many nickels have you dropped into a vending machine that could have bought you a private island? The 1996 P Jefferson 5 cents is the grand finale of what we've explored today, a coin that surpasses even the breathtaking story of the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel we covered earlier in this video, a coin that stands at the absolute summit of Jefferson nickel collecting and, in the opinion of many serious numismatists, at the summit of American-era coin collecting as a whole. If you've made it to this moment in our video, then you are exactly the kind of person who deserves to know what's out there, what's hiding in plain sight, what's circulating through the world disguised as ordinary pocket change, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the patience and the passion to look twice. Check your coin jars. Search your old collections. Ask your grandparents if they have any old nickels set aside. Because somewhere out there, a 1996 P Jefferson 5 cents is waiting to be found. And the person who finds it will never have to think about pocket change the same way again. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. This is Legacy Coins, and we'll see you next time with more extraordinary stories hiding in the most ordinary places.